3 men left shore on a Tuesday morning. Only 2 came back. And what happened in between, in 47 days on the open Pacific with no engine, no working radio, no food, and eventually no hope, is one of the most brutal, heartbreaking, and genuinely unbelievable survival stories in modern history. Not movie survival. Not the kind where the hero stays clean and finds a volleyball to talk to. Real survival. The kind that leaves marks you carry for the rest of your life. This is that story. June 15, 2008. The Mexican coast is barely light when Jesus Vidana loads his boat. He's done this hundreds of times. Late 20s, sun-hardened, the kind of fisherman who reads the ocean the way other people read faces, instinctively, fluently, with a confidence earned over years of being out here. With him is his cousin Lucio Rendon, quiet and solid, the person you want beside you when things go sideways. And then there's Salvador Ordóñez. Young. New to all of this. He's never been on the open ocean before, but he needs work, and 3 days on a fishing boat sounds straightforward enough. They pack for a week. Water jugs, canned food, ice for the catch, a radio, a full tank of fuel. They are not careless men. They've thought this through. What they haven't thought through, what no one could have, is what happens on day 2, 40 miles from shore, when the engine coughs twice and stops. Just like that. No warning. No gradual failure. Running 1 second, dead the next. Jesus checks everything. Fuel line, spark plugs, electrical connections, all fine, all fine, all fine. He tries the ignition until his wrist aches. Nothing. He grabs the radio. Static, a thick, unbroken wall of it, because they've drifted further than they realized, far past the range of any coastal station. He sets the receiver down. He looks at the horizon. Perfect circle of blue. No ships. No land. No planes. No help. And in that moment, all 3 of them understand, at the same time, in the same silence, that this trip is no longer a fishing trip. This is something else entirely. And none of them have a word for it yet. Here's what the first week costs them. The sun, and this part never makes it into the survival movies, the sun is the first thing that starts killing you. Not the hunger. Not the thirst. The sun. Out on the open ocean with no shade and nowhere to go, it burns through you in layers. By day 4 their lips have split open. Their skin has gone from sunburn to something deeper, a tight, cracking damage that makes moving painful. The deck is too hot to sit on by noon. They ration water with terrifying precision, measuring out sips by the hour, watching the level in the jugs drop the way you watch a clock when you're already late for something you cannot miss. Day 7, the food runs out. The fish they caught on day 1 have rotted in the heat. The smell is so bad, so physically overwhelming, that they throw the entire catch overboard just to breathe. And that's when they see it, the thing that will follow them for the rest of this story. Sharks. They appear within seconds of the fish hitting the water. Gray shapes materializing from the deep as if they were already there, already waiting. They hit the scraps in a frenzy, white water, blood, gone in less than a minute. And then the sharks slow down. They don't leave. They begin to circle the boat. Patient. Unhurried. Present in the way only a predator can be present when it has already decided it is not in a hurry. Salvador watches them from the bow with eyes that have gone very still and says, quietly, they already know. They're just waiting. Nobody argues. Because he's right. And they all know it. Day 10. 1 liter of water left between 3 people. This is the number that medicine uses to mark the threshold. 1 liter between 3 adults in equatorial heat means organ damage is no longer a risk. It is a timeline. Their urine is dark brown. They've stopped talking to save energy. They lie flat and breathe and exist and wait for something, anything, to change. What changes on day 12 is the sky. It goes from blue to gray to black in under 2 hours, and then the ocean, which has been glassy and motionless for days, remembers what it's actually capable of. The first wave hits the boat sideways and nearly rolls it. They bail with their hands, their shoes, a bucket that seems almost insulting given the amount of water coming in. Lightning strobes across everything. 6 hours of this, riding waves that feel like walls, holding onto each other in the hull, the thunder so constant it stops registering as individual sounds and just becomes the texture of the world. When it ends, they collapse where they stand. But here's the thing. Here's what changes everything. Puddles. Everywhere. In the folds of the tarp, in the bottom of the hull, in every low surface of the boat. Jesus gets on his hands and knees and drinks directly from the fiberglass. It tastes of fuel and salt and chemicals he cannot name. He drinks every drop. Lucio does the same. Salvador, barely conscious, has to be helped, and when the water hits his lips he makes a sound that is almost too human to describe. The storm nearly killed them. The storm also saved them. And this tension between the thing trying to kill you and the thing keeping you alive being the same thing, is what the next 5 weeks will feel like. Now we have to talk about what happens to the mind. Because the body failing is one kind of horror. But the mind going is another kind entirely, and in some ways, it is worse to witness than to experience. It starts with Salvador, around week 3. He begins having conversations with people who aren't there. His mother. His girlfriend. He laughs at things only he can hear. At first, Jesus and Lucio try to pull him back, calling his name, grabbing his face, forcing eye contact. But wherever Salvador is going inside his head is warmer than the boat, and quieter, and populated by people he loves. He stops wanting to come back. Then one morning he stands up, looks at the horizon with absolute calm, and says he's going to swim to shore. He can see it clearly, he says. Right there. Maybe a mile. He's already climbing over the rail when Jesus grabs him. What follows is not a fight. It's something more complicated and more desperate than a fight, one man trying to physically restrain another man from swimming toward a shore that does not exist, while that man genuinely believes he is being held back from safety. Salvador thrashes and screams and claws at Jesus' arms with whatever strength he has left in his depleted body. It takes both Jesus and Lucio to hold him. When he finally collapses, he weeps not from pain but from frustrated certainty, convinced, completely convinced, that he almost made it. They never both sleep at the same time after that. Jesus starts seeing things too. Islands on the horizon, close enough to make out the trees. A container ship so real he can almost hear its engine. Once, a helicopter. He screams himself raw, waving his arms until the helicopter becomes a seabird and the seabird becomes nothing, and he sits back down and makes a decision. He will not trust his own eyes anymore. Every shape on the horizon has to hold through multiple blinks, through sustained staring, before he allows himself to react. Because hope spent on illusions is hope you cannot spend on survival. Lucio, through all of it, says almost nothing. He sits at the bow and stares at the water with an expression that has passed through every stage of grief and come out the other side into something quieter. Not peace exactly. More like a man who has finished arguing with reality and simply accepted what it is. It terrifies Jesus more than anything else on the boat. Day 28. No food for 3 weeks. Jesus is sitting at the edge of the hull watching small fish move in the shadows below, the kind that gather around floating objects in open water because even a drifting boat looks like shelter when there are no fixed points in the world. They are close. Close enough to see clearly. But every time he has grabbed for them, they've gone, effortless and instant, into depths he cannot follow. He thinks about his grandfather, an old fisherman, long dead, who had a saying he repeated so often that Jesus had stopped hearing it years ago: when the ocean has taken everything from you, it will still offer what you need. But you have to be willing to reach in and take it. He picks up his knife. He makes a small cut on his palm and lets the blood drip over the side. The sharks come first, they always come first. But the blood and the motion draw something else too. The small fish rise toward the surface, curious, and they come within reach. Jesus holds himself absolutely still. He waits. He reaches in. He catches one with his bare hand. It takes 3 tries. And the third time he holds on through the thrashing and pulls it over the rail and kills it and tears it open, and the smell of raw fish in the open air, which in any other life would turn his stomach, is the most welcome thing he has encountered in weeks. He gives the first piece to Salvador, who can barely open his eyes. Then Lucio. Then eats the rest himself. It is not enough to end the hunger. Nothing will end the hunger. But it is enough to get through today. And today is now the only unit of time that matters. Day 35. Jesus wakes before dawn and looks across the boat. He knows immediately. There is a quality to Salvador's stillness that is different from sleep, a finality to it, a completeness, the body settled into a position it will not move from. The lines of suffering have smoothed away from his face. He looks almost young again. He looks like the man who smiled at the engine starting 3.5 weeks ago, before any of this began. They kneel on the floor of the boat, 2 men who have almost nothing left, and say the words that have been said over the dead for thousands of years. Then they lift Salvador carefully and lower him over the side. They face the other direction. They do not watch. Afterward, silence. The kind that sits in the space a person leaves behind. Then Jesus looks at Lucio. Lucio looks at Jesus. They pick up their lines. They begin again. Because there is no other option. There has never been another option. You continue or you stop, and stopping is the one thing they are not willing to do. Day 47. Lucio is sitting at the bow. He has been sitting in this same position, staring at this same water, for most of the past 7 weeks. He is not watching for anything anymore. He has stopped watching for things. He is simply existing, which at this point is its own achievement. He looks up. Something on the horizon. He stares at it with the flat, disciplined skepticism of a man who has been deceived by his own perception more times than he can count. He waits. He blinks. The shape does not dissolve. It is getting larger. Jesus. One word. Barely a sound. But Jesus has been attuned to this boat for 47 days, and something in that syllable is different from every syllable that's come before it. He looks. A cargo ship. Real. Close enough to make out rust on the hull. Close enough to be certain, not a bird, not a cloud, not the dying brain generating comfort in the dark. A real ship, crossing a real ocean, and it is right there. The sound that comes out of both of them is not something you could call a scream. It is something older and more animal than that, the sound of a body reacting before the mind has fully caught up with what is happening. They burn strips of clothing for smoke. They wave their arms until their shoulders give out. They do everything they can think of to occupy space in this ship captain's field of vision, to be the thing he sees when he sweeps the horizon. The ship turns. It takes 40 minutes to reach them. 40 minutes of silence, of watching, of not looking away, because to look away is to invite the possibility that this is not real. Neither of them speaks. They watch the ship grow from a shape to a vessel to a thing with people on it, people leaning over the rail, people who are seeing them. When the crew pulls them aboard, Jesus and Lucio cannot stand without support. They've each lost over 60 pounds. Their skin is burned in layers. Their eyes have receded deep into their skulls. The solid, unmoving deck beneath their feet is so disorienting after 47 days of constant motion that it feels like a new kind of vertigo. The captain asks how long they've been out there. Jesus thinks about it. He has a rough number. But the number feels disconnected from what it actually means, from the hours, the fish, the storms, the things they did to stay alive, the morning he woke up and looked across the boat and knew. 47 days is just a number. What it represents is something that doesn't fit inside numbers. A long time, he says. A very long time. 2,000 miles from where they started. 47 days. 2 survivors. 1 man who didn't make it home. Here's what I want you to take from this, and I don't mean a lesson, because this story is too heavy for easy lessons. What kept Jesus and Lucio alive was not hope. Hope is a feeling, and feelings don't catch fish or hold a man back from the rail or get you through the 6th consecutive hour of bailing water in the dark. What kept them alive was smaller and harder and less cinematic than hope. It was the next thing. Always just the next thing. Cut the palm. Hold the hand still. Wait for the fish. Wake up. Do it again. The ocean didn't spare them because they deserved it. It didn't take Salvador because he didn't fight hard enough. The ocean doesn't operate on those terms. It is enormous and ancient and completely indifferent to whether you live or die. But Jesus and Lucio found something inside that indifference, some small, stubborn, unreasonable refusal to stop, and they held onto it for 47 days. And that refusal is the whole story. That refusal was enough.